On today's episode, we go beyond the beer, and Mike makes kombucha. Cheers. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Brewthers-In-Law podcast, where beer is thicker than water, or in this case, kombucha is thicker than water.
I like where your head's at.
Join us on a journey discovering homebrewing, craft beer, and kombucha. My name is Ryan, and with me is my kombucha, Mike. Mike,
You are really leaning.
I am leaning into this. I've had a few drinks, okay?
Of kombucha?
Of kombucha, yes, kombucha.
No, you have not.
Air quotes kombucha.
We were just discussing how in this episode Ryan is going to play the role of like new person, you know, like the Harry Potter of the world who has to have everything explained to him because he's just the kind of novice character. What's going on. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I'm a what? I'm a wizard?
You're a wizard.
I'm a
Ryan.
kombucha.
You are not kombucha, Ryan. But if you were, I'd drink you right on.
Oh. All right. So, with being said, we are doing kombucha. Our first sip for today is going to go off it a little bit. So, we brew beer. We brew kombucha. Mike, what is your non-beer and non-kombucha beverage of choice to make that you have to brew?
Okay. So it depends on how much
I think I know your answer.
Stretch the definition of brew.
Okay.
If you brew coffee, then it's coffee.
You brew coffee.
Okay, then it's coffee.
Okay. All right.
So I love me a good coffee, and
that's what I thought your answer was going to be. Anyway,
and Haley, wonderfully signed me up for this like monthly thing where like this place in Austin sends me. So they basically get green coffee beans from a different country every month.
Oh yeah,
and then they fresh roast them and send them to you in the mail. So it's like every month you get freshly roasted ground or beans, whole beans, and then I grind those up in my grinder. I put them in a French press, and oh boy, it has really been a revelation and has turned me into a coffee snob. Because prior to this, I never had a problem drinking gas station coffee. Can't do it anymore.
Can't. No Speedway coffee for
unless it's a Love's, because Love's does fresh ground, you know. But yeah, so if we're talking something that's going to go in my kegerator, that's not coffee. It is not really brewed, but it would be our like San Pellegrino clone. So sparkling.
But see, that's
water.
why I said brewed, because I feel like because I was gonna say like you could do.
Right.
A keg,
Not
you could do
serve
like
on draft,
soda,
but brew.
Yeah, brew
okay.
it. Like it involves the brewing process.
Well, then it's coffee.
Okay. For
How about
me,
you?
it's tea.
Okay.
Because I can do the same thing I do with my beer. Actually, my beer, because I can do different flavor profiles with it. So I can do
mixes. Yeah.
a green tea with like a fruity flavor to kind of balance it out and everything else. An elderberry or something like that. Youthberry, that was the one I was looking for. Youthberry.
Oh, dude, the old like Tiavana blend.
Yes.
The Youthberry blend is incredible.
Mix that with a little green tea.
We've done it with the Monkey Pick Oolong.
Oh yes,
so
the Monkey Pick Oolong with
and
that
a little
too.
bit of those little sugar crystals.
Yes.
Oh, sweeten it up
the
a bit.
fig, they're like fig crystals, aren't they?
Oh, are
Maybe
they?
with like fig
I don't know.
sugar or something
Probably.
like that. They're so good. But yeah, that'd be
I'll
mine.
take your word for that.
So a little listener feedback. Let me open up my trusty phone here. Okay. So, going to TikTok, we have Blowing Smoke STL says, need to pick up, going to the Three Floyds episode that we did, need to pick up some of their stuff as it's distributed down here now as well. I don't know where he is. I'm assuming he's
south of Illinois.
South of Illinois. I didn't know. But again, Three Floyds, that episode just took off real well. We got a lot of comments on it.
Yeah, man. Well, we talked about it on the last episode we recorded for getting order of release, but like it was an interesting timing for the episode because even people who haven't heard of them are bound to like be taken by the art style and might be discovering it, or you might have heard of Zombie Dust or Dark Lord or whatever, and now you're seeing Three Floyds pop up, and you're like, oh.
I was talking to my barber about it today, actually, when I was getting my haircut, and talking about Three Floyds. He's like, I don't think I've heard of them. I go, if you like look for this some weird artwork, you'll find it, and you'll love it.
Look for a beer that sounds like it's called Zombie Dust.
Yes.
Just based on the label, and you will find a beer called Zombie Dust.
Or Middle Finger Space Station. Just you know
Right.
what you're looking for.
That one's pretty literal. Yeah, hard to screw that one up. Which of these beers has a space station that is also the finger?
Yes. Next one is also on TikTok. It is from Mead Weaver, and this is going back to our Gateway beer episode.
Okay, interesting. I thought it was going to be the meat episode.
I know. You threw you off guard there.
You might think that.
They said Rodenbach Grand Cru
Ooh.
was my gateway into sours. And I wanted to say this for you.
Yes, okay.
Because I know you like sours.
You know, we did that Island Beers episode.
Yeah.
If we were to redo that episode, Rodenbach Grand Cru would be on it. Like so it's a Flanders Red. It is absolutely incredible. Yeah, I would love. I'm gonna make you try a Flanders Red at some point. Maybe we should.
I've had a Flanders Red. I
think perhaps we should do a maybe like a tasting episode on different types of sour, so I can just like
we can do
introduce you.
We
to
can
the
do a sours field research episode.
Yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun. But I think that of all sour styles, Flanders Red is my favorite, and I think that of all Flanders Reds, Rodenbach Grand Cru is the best. Yeah. So
apparently, it's a gateway to sours.
Good on you. It absolutely is. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mead Weaver, for that.
Because they're just whereas a lot of the newer, like the American kettle sours they're very one note, very sour often, and like if there's fruit, the fruit flavor kind of dominates the beer. The Flanders Red has a mix of sour with this almost like balsamic vinegar kind of quality, which sounds gross, but it's not.
I'm about to say,
it's like really pleasant, with like these kind of lightly funky fermentation characteristics with some malt. It's oh man, they're just I could go on and on all episode, but yeah.
But we're not talking about sours. We're talking about kombucha, which
is sour.
So
it's adjacent.
It's adjacent.
It's actually a weirdly appropriate way to get into it.
So I'm going to lead this off to you. This is your domain. This is not something I'm into.
So I'm going to do my best to bounce some questions back to you. Otherwise,
no,
there's going to be some Michael exposition.
No, I'm listening.
So for starters, what is your understanding? You apparently are not a kombucha guy. What is your understanding of what kombucha is?
It's super healthy. I know that.
Oh my god, it's so healthy.
It's supposed to be super healthy because it's supposed to have a lot of. I believe it's a lot of stuff for digestion and a lot of stuff for like health and probiotics. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, so and I'm surprised, not surprised, but that's very interesting that was like kind of not being someone who likes it, kind of what you've gleaned from culture at large. So that actually, now that I think about it, shouldn't be surprising. But so the basic definition of kombucha is it is a fermented tea. Okay. So it's a sweetened and then fermented tea made using a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So that symbiotic culture, bacteria and yeast, of bacteria and yeast is shortened to a SCOBY. So you'll hear for kombucha people, it's called a SCOBY. They're kind of gross looking, but because it's like a puck of like like bacteria and yeast. But so basically that is that's what kombucha is. It is tea that has been fermented. And so now one of the things I'll say up front is that in terms of alcohol content, we are a beer podcast, obviously. So we're often talking about alcoholic beverages. All fermentation of kombucha will produce some level of alcohol. And there are definitely versions of kombucha which are intentionally made as hard beverages, as alcoholic beverages. Most commercial and most correctly homebrewed versions, as far as I understand it at least, if you follow the directions or whatever, will fall under 0.5%. So that is low enough to be considered legally non-alcoholic. Okay. Which, interestingly, I looked this up while I was doing research for kombucha. Apparently, like, if you were to drive around with a non-alcoholic beer, you can legally do that because it, again, is below 0.5%. You might get pulled over and might have to explain to the officer why you thought that was like a smart idea.
I've seen videos of people being like, smart asses about
Adam has been pulled over for having like an IBC root beer because it's in the same sort of brown bottle. Yeah, but yeah, so it is not now. if you take medication that reacts with alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
you at least talk to your doctor. I might suggest not doing even commercial kombucha because it does have a small residual amount. Like there's no ferment. I don't think, to my understanding, the fermentation is designed to produce minimal alcohol. It's not filtered out or boiled off or anything. So if you take medication, be very careful. Maybe talk to your doctor. I don't know, and I'm not going to try and state anything definitive.
I'd about to say that's our safety notice, so we can't get sued.
It's our safety notice, right? So I don't know about that, but yeah, generally kombucha, like you said, is widely considered a functional beverage or a health beverage, not something you drink to like get a buzz. So
yeah,
in terms of history, a recent Forbes article cites Northeast China as the site of the invention, quote unquote, of kombucha, and claims that the name comes from a Dr. Kambu, who was a Korean doctor who brought the beverage to Japan as a curative for the emperor at the time.
Okay.
So clearly it was like used in many East Asian countries for its curative properties for a long time.
Yep.
So it was originally considered like a curative, a health drink. Eventually it's made its way to Europe, Russia, and further as trade routes expanded. And then generally the first major commercial kombucha brand in the U.S. which popularized it is considered to be GT's, which you'll see in most stores, founded in 1995. Okay. I think to date they remain the largest like sector of the commercial kombucha market in America. GT's.
Yeah, I think when I was just doing some basic research onto this, I did see that it definitely originated more to the east with I believe India, China, or Russia actually were the three that I saw as the original location of kombucha.
Yeah, and it's worth noting like a lot of fermented beverages, basically like the world loves booze. Like or just like there were not sanitary practices back in the day, and so like lots of things. I remember my college roommate Justin had he kept a thing of Arnie Palmer in his car, like all seasons, and so he just took a swig of some that he'd had in his car for a while and went, "Does this taste weird to you?" And he doesn't drink alcohol like at all.
Yeah,
and I took a swig of it and went, "Justin, that is alcoholic." He had just it had like it had been sitting in there, it had like definitely started to ferment and become alcoholic. And like, you can imagine how that led to the invention of beer. You're storing some grains, or whatever, like they get a little rained on. And then like, I think that's often been proposed as kind of the invention, quote unquote, of beer. And then people were like, this makes me feel kind of good. And so,
I mean, why argue with that?
Right. So many cultures have independently invented like fermented beverages. So when you say India, Russia, China, it makes plenty of sense to me that it could have been simultaneously invented in multiple cultures. Like the idea of taking tea, sweetening it, forgetting about it, coming back to find it's been fermented by like open fermentation makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, agreed.
So in terms of health benefits, claims about the health benefits of kombucha obviously go back to its very beginnings. As I said, they have been historically somewhat overblown and misunderstood in the past. I don't have a lot of interest in getting into that. We're not a health podcast. But based on a review article from 2014, admittedly kind of old at this point, it at least seems like there is sufficient evidence to state that kombucha preserves the native health benefits of tea.
Okay.
So it's made from tea. It is at least as healthy as green or black tea, whatever it's made from.
Yeah.
It doesn't lose those health benefits. It is also possible, depending on who you talk to, maybe probable, that it also delivers the health benefits associated with other fermented foods. So think about things like yogurt or kimchi, which are...
I was literally about to ask, what else is fermented food?
Yeah, so like kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt are all great examples. Those are known to have probiotics, but also, if you ever heard like, you like take a swill of really cloudy beer and someone will say, yeah, getting your vitamin B. So yeast deliver vitamin B. The fermentation process and just literally like consuming those microorganisms can give you important trace minerals, important vitamins. So that part of it is less certain. It's unclear how many viable probiotics remain in commercial kombuchas.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume there's more in commercial or in homebrewed. I don't know. Again, don't really want to get into it, but there's at least some there's at least some evidence to back up some of the lesser health claims.
Yeah.
People have also claimed that like it cures cancer and stuff, and there's not hard science to back that up. Not whatever, like I'm not trying to say one way or the other, but there's not rigorous science to back that up. But it is at least as healthy as tea. For myself, I personally enjoy it mostly for its taste. That's the angle I'm taking. The fermentation character produces a tart, lightly carbonated beverage, a little bit of fermentation character that like you'd get in like a sour, like a Brett beer.
Oh, yeah.
That packs a lot of flavor and character for relatively low sugar content and relatively low total calories. Like, it's insane how low calorie, but how packed full of flavor kombucha can be. That's why I like it. Now, most commercial kombucha is not served straight. You will not often find... A lot of the brands make an original flavor, but you won't find it at many stores. You'll mostly find it at health food stores with like an enormous selection.
Yeah.
If you go to Meijer, if you're in Michigan, or whatever weird
Piggly Wiggly,
insufficient, whatever like lesser grocery store you go to in your state, you'll find like mostly flavored kombuchas that have been mixed with probably around 10% of one or more fruit juices.
I was gonna say, because one of the ones that I like a lot is they did I think it was either Dr. Pepper or root beer, where like it tastes like a soda.
Okay, so you do have a little bit of I
dabbled.
So let's return to that in a second here.
Okay,
so I'll finish this thought. So in addition, you'll see other things like spices, oak aging, spirulina, and other health foods, chia seeds.
First of all, spirulina is horrible. We've learned this.
Yeah. So I've actually had kombucha with spirulina in it.
Why?
So that they had it made it a cool blue, and they had a light enough touch you couldn't taste the fishy.
Okay.
Chia seeds give it a really interesting texture where they kind of serve it flat. And you know how like chia seeds can almost have that like bubble tea kind of weird, like if you put chia seeds in liquid, it gets a weird like mucousy film on it, and it's like it's just really, like I said, they're like tiny little bubble tea bubbles to me, where it's like that weird like sensation.
Yeah.
So you can do that. So basically, like at the end, you can get at least as wild, if not wilder, as what we're seeing being done in the world of beer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Crazy fruits, I can see that. All manner of anything. I've seen hopped kombucha. You know, like you can take it in any direction you want.
Okay.
Typically, the recommendation and what I've seen on a lot of bottles is that 10% is a pretty normal standard for how much fruit juice to add.
Okay.
So, lemon and ginger are very common flavors and are often employed as a backbone for other flavors. Kombucha can also be used as a basis for low sugar sodas, which is what you were talking about.
Yes.
So, yeah, there are brands that make like a Dr. Pepper, a cola, where they use those spices, but they don't. They basically like make a cola and then let the kombucha eat away the sugar. It produces the fizz and some kombucha character.
Yes.
So with that in mind, like you start there maybe. So what kinds of kombucha have you had experience with, and what have you liked?
So I've dabbled in a little bit. Like I've done some generic flavors. Like I've done like a cherry. I've done like a ginger. But really the only one that really caught my interest and liking was probably that Dr. Pepper one.
Okay, yeah.
Just because I have nothing against kombucha. Kombucha, like I said, it's unique flavors and there's so many flavors you can do with it, obviously, but finding the right flavor profile is where you need to be with it. And I think it's kind of like when you do an IPA, bringing it to beer. So like we talk about Two Hearted, which Centennial hops, strictly Centennial hops. That's a very, very in-your-face, grapefruit, citrus, piney hop. But if you did an IPA that's more citra-based with hops, which is not as strong in your face, it's got a different profile to it. A little fruitier. It's not as bad, and it's more prone to be drinkable to some people. Vice versa, could be the other way around.
Yeah, we've talked about how like Stone IPA is an IPA lover's IPA, whereas a Midwest, or I would argue Two Hearted, is like a good. You might not love IPA, but this might be your this might be your gateway.
Exactly. So
So you find the kombucha pops to be kind of a gateway kombucha, or
to
kombucha
me, yes, yes, to me, yes. They're my hazy IPA.
Right. Okay. So that's interesting. Right. So probably the last kind of missing thing for why I decided. The biggest reason I homebrew kombucha is that Haley got me a kombucha brewing kit for Christmas.
Yes.
Easy. But the reason I'm interested in homebrewing kombucha is that for the most part, due to I think its status as a health food, and maybe also just the labor involved in it, kombucha can be a bit of an expensive habit, with a single bottle costing upwards of like $5.
That's the other reason.
Depending where you buy it. Yeah. So like when I go to Meijer, we'll often only buy like on sale brands.
Yeah.
Because it just and I'll try and I'll buy like one or two to drink throughout a week or over 2 weeks. Like it's just an expensive habit. Now, okay, beer can be an expensive habit too, but like I don't, for whatever reason, a lot of beers aren't going to run you $5 a bottle. Even craft beers,
no.
even craft beers don't get up that high. So that's a lot. At my work, if you go to the cafeteria, it's like $7 or something silly like that. So, yeah. So this sounds like a great candidate for a home brewing project, particularly since the only ingredients you need to make it are tea and a little bit of sugar, and then maybe some juice, right? So, sounds like a great home brewing project. But before we get there, I would like to sort of establish a baseline on what kombucha tastes like. So if you would be so kind as to grab one of the ones I brought with me, grab the taller one, the GTs. Grab them both. So here, let's use these. So I grabbed one that I really like, and then I don't like both of these, but one is like sort of a unique one that I really enjoy. And this first one, so this is GT's raw kombucha. It's the trilogy flavor. And this, at least around us, GT's trilogy is like, to me, it is the base kombucha flavor. Like almost every store will carry this.
Okay.
If they have GT's, they will always have this flavor. And it's just kind of like their flagship, I guess I would say, with GT's being the largest kombucha brand in the US. So if I may. So it's strikingly red. The trilogy is raspberry juice, lemon juice, and fresh pressed ginger juice. So it's raspberry, lemon, ginger is where this flavor comes from. Now, I will say, if you're not a huge kombucha fan, GT's, to my palate, is one of the most tart, aggressive flavored kombuchas that you will come across. Okay. So just kind of be ready for that. I'm pouring like a sloppy boy.
It's like you've done 2 episodes of drinking.
So you can see it's fairly fizzy. It's got a nice pink foam, almost like it's like a strawberry sour or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and then furthermore, so this is the kind of base kombucha is their culture, their SCOBY, black tea, green tea, and kiwi juice, and then those fruit and ginger juices are the only ingredients. And then sugar, obviously.
Obviously,
yeah. But presumably that sugar gets fermented out.
Mm-hmm. I think the one thing I can smell right off the bat as you take a drink is the ginger is super, super strong in this. Like I smell it over everything else.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would agree. It's actually interesting for like a beer drinker. It has like pretty good head retention.
Speak for yourself.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I foamed mine a little more than yours, but like, look, you can see a little bit of topography.
Oh yeah. No, it tastes like you definitely get the other flavors in there. I definitely taste the lemon juice. I definitely taste the ginger. And you said, what was it, raspberry?
Raspberry.
Yeah, it's definitely a tart. That's what it's going for. Raspberries are tart. Lemon is tart. Ginger is tart. Like it's a very tart thing.
Kombucha, the part of the bacteria used for kombucha is lactobacillus, which is what is used in like beer souring a lot of the time. So like and yogurt, but like it creates lactic acid, which is tart. So even just like if you have original kombucha, it will be tart. You know, the fermentation process tarts the beer up. And I think that's why it's a natural complement for a lot of tart fruits. So how did you find it too far? Like, what do you think of this? This, again, sort of being a flagship kombucha flavor.
It's a little bit on the too tart side for me. Like, it's almost like we went to Jolly Pumpkin, which is why I can see why you like these. And I know you're in love with Jolly Pumpkin,
I do,
which do a lot of sour beers.
But you know what? I do find like some of Jolly. I'm a huge fan of Jolly Pumpkin. I love Bam beer. Some their beers are hit or miss for me, whether they're too tart. Like I used to really like La Roja. They're like red. It's sort of their Flanders analog. Yeah. But their bugs are here being a kind of shorthand for like the bacteria and like the wild yeast that for an open fermentation. La Roja is almost too sour. It's not too sour to drink, but it's past my ideal balance.
Yeah.
Whereas like for their Golden Ale for Bam beer, I think it works really well. But yeah, so let me also ask, aside from just the tartness, do you get, so when I say there's kind of a fermentation character, do you smell and taste what I'm talking about? Like a kind of, for lack of a better term, not in the same way as a beer, but like a kind of a funkiness?
Unfortunately, I'm going to say no. I think that...
I mean, it might be totally hidden by the fruit. Yeah.
I must say that ginger especially is just super, super strong for my taste and my smell.
Yeah.
And going with the lemon and the raspberry as well just adds to the tartness.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so that's Trilogy. Like I said, I really like Trilogy. I'm not complaining about it when I say this. More due to its popularity than anything. But
yeah,
that is kind of a flagship, prototypical. It's, again, though, I think the funny thing is that GT's to me is one of the most intense kombuchas. So, it might be popular in the way, again, Stone IPA is popular, where it's like, it's popular because for kombucha lovers, it's like intense flavor. So this next one is a brand called Hum with 2 M's. So this flavor is blueberry mint, which I'm
intrigued by this flavor actually.
Find very interesting. This brand also, I couldn't find it. They make I think it's like a coconut lime, which I like even more than this. But I think also too, you'll find that this brand has less aggressive souring. So I don't know if that's a difference in their SCOBY, in their choice of flavor, how they balance, like how much fruit juice they add, but it's just something that I have noticed.
Right off the bat, the smell, it's completely different compared to the other one. Like it's the blueberry definitely is there.
There's not overly lot of sweet, blueberry. Yeah,
but it's still like blueberry.
Yeah, and the flavors are really nice, kind of purpley blue too.
The color, you mean, not the flavor?
Mm-hmm. No, this tastes purple. Purple.
It's a purple drink.
You know, it kind of doesn't not taste like that.
No, right?
It does not taste like purple Gatorade.
No, this is actually this is good. I like this a lot.
Yeah,
I would put this on my spectrum of like really, really good.
Would enjoy. Yeah, if handed a bottle, would not say no, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think the mint and the blueberry, they go very well together.
Yeah,
I think the only thing I would probably add to this would be a lemon to bring it, because it is a little
it's
sweet.
Almost too far the other way.
Bringing that lemon just to balance it. But I think it's good still.
It is funny you say that, though, because the total sugars in this, there's 7 grams of sugar in a 14 ounce kombucha. So 7 grams with 0 grams added sugar, because theoretically any added sugar that is used is like completely, used up by the SCOBY. So again, actually, this one,
to compare it, the GTs, that is 12 grams of sugar.
Okay.
So actually the GT, which had a more, obviously the ginger, lemon, and raspberry flavor, has more sugar to it than the blueberry mint.
Now, part of that might be, let me check. And so this doesn't. So, one thing I will note with a lot of commercial kombucha, neither of these are. So this is made with, since we listed it for the other one, the kombucha is green tea, black tea, white grape juice, cane sugar, and then a SCOBY. So they use GTs use kiwi juice. This uses grape juice. So no Tamal, no GTs, because they use kiwi juice as the basis for all of theirs. This one uses white grape, which I feel like comes through.
Yes,
and that might explain, like, white grape is a way sweeter base. Kiwi's pretty tart. That might explain some of the difference. And then this has apple juice, blueberry juice, elderberry, And it says natural flavors, which I imagine includes mint because they don't list mint here. But yeah, so this entire 14-ounce bottle is 35 calories. The GT's is 50, which is also fairly low when you think about the flavor that it's packing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one thing to watch out for, like Kavita, which I think is a Pepsi brand, they make probably the tart cherry that you said you tried might have been theirs because they're pretty easy to find. They have like a pineapple peach that's really good.
Okay.
So they and a lot of other brands will use natural sweeteners like stevia to help balance their kombuchas out. Now, for myself, I like both of those flavors of the Kavita, but I am very sensitive to the taste of artificial sweetener.
Agreed,
even
yes.
not artificial, 0-calorie sweetener.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't matter if it's artificial or not. Stevia, sweet and low, like they all have this taste that I hate.
No,
I cannot stand it. Like, I know that not everybody's as sensitive as me, but like so if that's something you're sensitive to, watch out with your brands. And if you're going to try one from that brand, pick maybe a more assertive flavor like tart cherry. Like the Kavita tart cherry is incredible. I don't notice it there. But like their lemon ginger, I do, and I don't like it.
Yeah,
and like the raspberry, I don't like that either. So something to note. So while we finish these up, let's take a little break. And on the back half of the episode, I will talk about my experience brewing kombucha, and we'll try a couple of my home brews.
Sounds good. Cheers.
Jake, have you ever been looking for a definitive Nintendo ranking and can't seem to find it because it's just everybody's own opinion?
Honestly, all the time, Sam.
Well, I'm looking for someone to give us the answers.
Wait, you mean like a podcast made by two young, handsome men where they create a definitive top 5 list of all things Nintendo?
Should we just do it ourselves?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Let's give it a shot. I'm Sam.
And I'm Jake.
And at Top 5 Nintendo, I'm going to give you my top 5 list.
And I'm going to give you my top 5 list.
And then we're going to duke it out and see what the real top 5 is.
Hey, this is TC.
And this is Jim from the Studio Demands It podcast.
Where every episode we take a demand from a hypothetical studio,
which could be you,
and challenge ourselves to conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film based on the stipulations
or the demands
we are given. We talk about movies all the time. Particularly, we complain about the choices made in the films we've seen.
We're nerds like that.
And, of course, like any good nerd does, we automatically assume that we could do better.
Even with the demands and restrictions that clearly must have been put on by a production.
So head on over to studiodemandsit.com and listen to our previous library of episodes. Our library of previous episodes. Our precious library, Jim. Our library of precious episodes.
You're a pirate, Smeagol.
Okay, so head on over to studiodemandsit.com to listen to our library of episodes.
And submit your demand for a future episode, too.
So go do that.
Okay, bye.
Okay, end of ad.
And we are back. Mike, how do you make kombucha?
Okay.
Walk us through this process, because I know a lot of people that make it. Well, not a lot. I know 2 people that make it besides you. So I know 3 people that make it.
Well,
how
let's
do you
try
make
mine
this?
first before we confirm that I have in fact made kombucha.
Okay, that's true. That's true. I got 2 bottles here.
Now, have you tried homebrew
I
kombucha
have
from
not
either of these
tried-
people?
No, because one's in Arizona and the other one I think is in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay.
All right. Well, so for starters, I got a kombucha starter kit. These are not that hard to find. My local homebrew shop
Yes, they
carries
do.
the same brand that I got. It's the Craft a Brew starter kit, complete kombucha making kit. So Craft a Brew is the brand that I got. There are other brands that are well reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
There are lists of the best starter kits. Like, do some Googling if you're interested. So interestingly, though, the way that this kit works, which I think is very smart, because you are using a live SCOBY culture, you get the kit, which can sit on the shelf for a long time, and it's fine because it's just some black tea bags, some pre-measured sugar, and then a fermentation vessel and relevant accessories. and then you get a code to redeem your SCOBY online.
Okay.
So it's basically, you know, hey, the kid get it for me for Christmas. It could sit in the closet wrapped up for 2 months. Then it takes me 2 more months. Actually, in this case, it was like a year and 2 months to decide I wanted to make it. But the SCOBY's not going to die because I order it right ahead of actually brewing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. I don't know if all of them work that way, but you know, you can imagine how SCOBY, if it was packaged with the kombucha kit, could easily die during transit or in a long time on the store shelf.
Yeah, I can see
or in
that.
a long time forgotten at your house before you use it.
Definitely see that.
So, so there's that. That's pretty neat. So, I would suggest, and then the thing is that SCOBYs are designed to be reused. You sort of harvest it from each kit. Probably some notes online on how to, you know, sort of, I'm assuming they kind of just keep growing. So I don't know if you at some point need to pare it down. I'm a rookie. I'm not that
it's kind
far
of like,
along.
it sounds like the mother dough when you're making bread. Like
Basically,
you
yeah.
have like a source of everything. You just need a little bit of it to then make what you need to make.
Yeah, but the thing for it would be like the mother dough if you pitched the whole mother dough into every batch of bread and then harvested it out.
Then harvest it back out.
So yeah, you pitch the SCOBY in, then you pull it back out and reserve it, and then you use it again. And
Gotcha.
Once you get going, I think you have a month or two. When you pull it back out, you pull it out with a little bit of the kombucha, and it sort of lives in there. And you have a month or two to make kombucha again before it will go dormant or start to die.
Yeah.
So you lock yourself in. But
yeah.
So basically, the way that the process works, you boil a bunch of water in a stock pot. So so this is what I did. This is what I did basically. So I will say, the directions like disturbed me a little bit with how not sanitary it is. They tell you at the end. So one, you can't use antibacterial soap because that will kill your SCOBY. So you can use dish soap to clean your hands, but not antibacterial. The difference being is your soap if it's just sloughing off bacteria or is it actively harmful? Is it bactericidal? Right? So that disturbed me. So what I ended up doing was using Star San and or boiling for a lot of these steps because I'm a beer brewer, and when you brew beer, you're really careful about the stuff. So what I did, I boiled all the water I would need in a stock pot. That was about 13 cups.
Okay.
I then picked up 4 cups into a 1 quart measuring cup. Briefly cooled that just to get down whatever the 5-10 degrees it needed to reach like optimal black tea steeping temperature.
Yep.
And then you steep like 2 big bags of black tea for 15 minutes. So it's a long steep. You're making a very strong tea because it's going to be diluted. Meanwhile, I rapidly cooled the remaining water, which I'm going to add to dilute later. I rapidly cooled that in the sink using a water bath. And oh no, you know what I did? It was winter in Michigan, so I stuck it in a snowdrift and let it cool down.
I've done that with beer, so don't worry.
Yeah. So meanwhile, after the 15 minutes, then I sanitized all my equipment with Star San. Not part of their directions, but again, it was something that I did because it feels weird to not
do that.
Do a sanitation step like that using like a sanitizing agent. They wanted you to use just like some non-antibacterial soap like dish soap. I wasn't prepared for that. So I was weird about it. So then you remove the tea bags, you squeeze them to get all the last bits of goodness out. Then you add your cane sugar and stir to dissolve. So the cane sugar is not to sweeten it. It provides fuel for fermentation.
Yes.
So that cane sugar is what the yeast and the bacteria in the SCOBY is going to eat. So then you add 9 cups of boiled water to the fermentation jar to sort of balance, to kind of dilute it out. So again, for me, that was boiled and cooled water. I don't know that like the directions necessarily called for it to be that way. You could use distilled water or, like reverse osmosis water or something. I don't know. I used boiled and cooled water. So then you let the full volume cool to room temperature, which it was pretty close by the time I ditched mine because of the snow.
Yeah.
Then you pitch your SCOBY. So It like comes in a little bag in like some liquid. You just pitch all of it.
Okay.
Then you cover it with a cloth because unlike, an airlock you use for brewing, the bacteria need free oxygen exchange. So you just cover it with like a cloth to be sanitary, but it is not sterile.
Yeah.
So again, this is not nearly as sterile as brewing is.
Yeah.
Then you secure that cloth with a rubber band, and then you ferment theoretically for 7 to 14 days.
Okay.
And my directions said taste after 7 days, see if you like it.
That part sounds a little bit like meat, a little bit, where like you let it go, test to see where it is, and then
and it's interesting because like not being a super experienced mead maker, like in beer, if beer mid fermentation is gross because there's all these fermentation compounds that the yeast clean up at the end that are still there, so it's not good. You don't want a mid fermented beer, whereas like for kombucha it's okay. You can bottle it up whenever you want based on your desired level of tartness. For me, I fermented it at 2 weeks on the floor of our fermenting shower, which is the shower in our guest
room. Yep.
So that in winter in Michigan, that ranged from 62 to 65.
Yes.
So the SCOBY showed some signs of expansion, and I could smell what I consider to be sort of the distinctive kombucha scent coming off of it.
Okay, that's good.
But I tasted it after 2 weeks, and it tasted like sweetened tea, indicating a very slow fermentation. So I was nervous. I took to Google. Apparently, slow fermentation can be very common for a new SCOBY.
Okay.
So your first batch might be that, but also some sites listed 65 as the minimum temperature with an ideal temperature closer to like 70 to 85.
Ooh, okay.
So I was way out of that range. So what I ended up doing is moving it to the top of our fridge because fridges, we're counterintuitively, the surface of our refrigerator is warm because it's sucking heat out of the main fridge. And it's also higher up and heat rises. So the next day we took a temperature with our little COVID IR surface thermometer and it registered at 72.
Okay.
So that's pretty good. So then I continued fermenting for an additional, because this episode was coming up, an additional 4 days. Then I bottled it. And this is another spot where kombucha is weird, where like you don't like in beer, you let fermentation finish completely. You add sugar when you bottle, and then you allow that to ferment. Kombucha, at least the instructions for mine, say you let it ferment a while, then you bottle it, and you just leave it at room temp while it starts to carb up. Then you put it in the fridge, and you don't forget about it so it doesn't explode on you. And it's like if you add juice, you definitely have to be careful.
I was about to say,
because it can totally explode on you if you're not careful. So it's like this weirdly laissez-faire thing where it's like, let it ferment. When you like the taste, put it in a bottle. After 2 or 3 days, try one. If it's at the level you want, great. If not, leave it another day. Then put it in the fridge, and then you just kind of put it in the fridge to stall fermentation. And yeah, it's a weird system, and I wasn't, like I said, being a beer brewer, it feels really laissez-faire to me, but I think that kombucha undergoes some kind of secondary or long-term fermentation process, but it's just kind of what you have to do.
I would say I am getting some PTSD because you're using the gross bottles, and all I'm picturing right now is opening it and then watching the meat explode.
Right.
So...
Now, this only carbed up for a day. So now, keep in mind, kombucha is not supposed to be nearly as carbonated as beer. So the 2 week rule doesn't really apply. They recommend 2 to 3 days. I only did 1. And I will say I'm a little bit nervous because I still felt personally like when I tasted prior to bottling, they were a little under fermented compared to my personal preference.
Okay.
So let's try. The first thing we are going to try is
don't explode.
Original
explode.
kombucha. Oh yeah. Do we want to get some? Okay,
let's go for
doing
it. Do it. Yeah.
That wasn't
no
much
explosion.
That wasn't much. That kind of makes me nervous a little bit. Okay. So here, pouring. This is original kombucha.
Now, what is original kombucha then?
Just no added juice.
Okay.
And so again, this is probably going to be pretty undercarbonated.
Actually, I like the smell.
Some people like their kombucha uncarbonated. You don't have to fizz it. Personally, I like the fizz. So yeah, here we go. This is
It's almost
Now-
hibiscus.
now
Like,
you get a
sweetness.
little bit of tang, right?
Yeah.
Now recall this is just tea and sugar. So any of that tang, that to me is what I call kombucha smell.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a sip. It's a little better than I remember.
It tastes almost like a sweet green tea.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
That's sort of where I'm at. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I like it though.
it's good, but this to me, it smells like kombucha. It does not taste like kombucha to me. It tastes like tea, sweetened tea, which
Well, I think
to
it's a
me
lack of
says that
carbonation.
fermentation still has, despite it being at like going on 3 weeks, it still is not completed. And I don't know if that was me. Oh, see, on that second sip, I definitely got a little kombucha tang in the back of my throat.
I mean, I do get a little tang with it, but like, it's definitely more of a sweetness
Yeah.
than anything else to it.
And I think maybe it may be more of an issue with the residual sugar than it is an issue with the like lack of kombucha flavor. It may just be that like that sugar needs to get all the way eaten up and it's just being real slow. And I think it's a combination of my bad fermentation temperature practices.
Maybe. Or
And-
a fresh Goya, like you said too.
Right. Maybe it's just a fresh SCOBY, but in any event, like not a raging success with that one.
I
So
call it success,
the-
but that's just me.
so the next one here we're
Don't
gonna
explode,
try.
don't explode, don't explode.
I added in, and I'm curious to see if it's any more carbonated, but I added in 10% ish of
Ish.
I measured in a shot glass, so like but of cherry palm. So it's like
Okay.
cherry pomegranate juice.
Okay.
Now pomegranate and tart cherry are two of my favorite flavors of kombucha.
Okay.
There's a brand that makes a pomegranate one that I think is just incredible. So
Don't explode.
this is where I still feel like there was about nothing. About nothing popping that open. So you'll notice a color difference.
Definitely, yeah. I noticed that within the bottle.
Not quite as prominent as the GTs, but it's kind of got a pretty orangey sort of flavor to it. The I don't know how GTs gets their color considering they all only use 5% juice. But GTs is also a mix of green and black, whereas mine is all black tea.
Okay.
So it may just be that there's enough yellow tea color that it kind of resists the color change. And I definitely
get a tang.
I
on this.
smell more tang. I don't know if it's just because they're tart fruits
Mhm.
or if like the kombucha was like munching on the sugars in the bottle.
Tastes like juice.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, this is like it's still kind of a little bit of kombucha flavor, but mostly it's like flavored sweet tea.
You know what a lot of this reminds me of, which in the similar
See again,
similar
the
range,
second sip. Once I get used to it, I get that kind of kombucha tang
Yeah.
in the back of my throat.
especially the smell. I don't think you've done it, but like hookah. Have you done hookah before? Like the smell reminds me of a hookah,
Yeah.
where like it's definitely got the fruit flavor, but there's something else there, like a tang to
Yeah.
go with it.
There's
as
a little
well.
bit of kind of complexity.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Actually, yeah, this is kind of hookah reminiscent.
Yeah,
Because it's got, that sort of, I don't know how to
Cherry.
describe it exactly.
it's like a
but-
tar almost, but it's like a sweet tar.
Yeah.
But it's so good. I mean, I think both of those are really good. I know, granted, I am not the best person to go for kombucha advice
Yeah.
for. So if I say it's good, it's probably not good. But
Yeah.
like, I think both of these are. I think the base is there, the flavor is there. Yes, you need that little bit of a tang, that little bit of
Yeah.
carbonation to it as
That-
well.
that's what I would
think
say,
with time
yeah.
you'll get there.
To me, I'm not happy with these because they're too sweet for my preference.
Yeah.
I want them to be a lot more tart. I like tart stuff.
Mhm.
And it feels like there's added sugar, which means that fermentation isn't done. Despite the fact that I went almost a full week past
Mhm.
the max recommended time on my kit. So again, that's probably a mix of not having warm enough fermentation. It's tough when we keep our house pretty cold and it's the winter.
Yes.
But also, I think it's just maybe a matter of it just being the first time. Because like I'm definitely watching the SCOBY's getting a lot bigger. And it's kind of, there's almost like two nuclei at this point.
Nuclei, yes.
Where like there's kind of the main, there was a thin film on top in the shower, and then there was like the main SCOBY on the bottom. But then when I put it up on top of the fridge, the creation of carbonation, I think, like was causing the like main SCOBY to float up a little more, and now it's just a big old mess. So after, I just need to grab all of that out and put it in the bottom of a mason jar and let it all recombine into one little icky puck to pitch into my next
the
kombucha.
mother dough.
Right. But I don't think I'm gonna abandon the cherry palm because I think it's gonna be incredible.
I think both of these would be really good. You just gotta give them more time.
I think it would be a lot better with a more tart brew. You know, like I think cherry and pomegranate are both kind of wasted on something that isn't tart because they're tart fruits.
Yeah.
And I think, but the other one though,
I think you do like
I am
lemon.
curious,
Add some lemon or
admittedly,
something to it.
because that's not a bad idea. And that might be part of why like GTs, for instance, is so tart versus the hum, which actually like, you're right. Like this is way closer to where hum is at compared to where GTs is at. And it might just be a matter of adding lemon juice.
Yeah. I think that's
because that's going to take it way past, you know, if there is lemon juice added, then like that's going to add a ton of tartness.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not then coming from the fermentation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll just have to see. I am curious about getting like a good kombucha system down and tasting the original, because admittedly I've had very little unflavored kombucha, and I wonder in a you know, like if you tried a GT's original or whatever, how much tea flavor would be preserved, because I think that could be really nice, like a kind of tart tea, but like the one that preserves the flavors of the original like black tea that it's made from. Yeah, that could be yummy.
Now, can you do kombucha with green tea or no? It has to be black tea.
No, it could be either.
Okay.
And actually, I believe both of these are made with both a mix of green and black. Okay. Maybe. Oh, you know what? Maybe I could do some like monkey picked oolong. See how that works out.
That would be good.
Like I don't know how much it would come through, but I wonder, that would actually be an interesting experiment. Is like two different kinds of tea, original kombucha. Can you taste the difference? Yeah. You know, like how much of the tea flavor really influences the end product, or is it all fermentation character?
Yeah, because I was thinking with green tea, lemon does go with green tea. Obviously, for the tea snobs out there, lemon with green tea, cream with black tea,
or like a full green tea kombucha with some peach too, because like peach green is like kind of a thing that's done.
Because like there's a peach tranquility that I know Tivana no longer exists, but it upsets me. But
the artist formerly known as Tivana.
Yes, the artist formerly known as Tivana. They did one called Peach Tranquility, which is like a little bit of green tea, but a lot of the peach. Yeah, and like it would be amazing if you could find something like Tivana. I know like Northville has like a tea shop where you guys are. The
what is that called? Like
Spice
Merchants. Yeah.
Go there and they'd be like, this could make an interesting kombucha. This could make an interesting, and then go with that and everything.
That's true. I also wonder, like, if you can use white tea.
I bet you could.
Because it's so delicate, and like that and peach is another one that I like know is a common flavor combination. But like I wonder, and like too, I wonder about. I've had kombucha that has hibiscus in it, which is quite nice. Yes. That's another great way to add tartness. Yeah. But I wonder about like if you used white tea and then some more delicate flower flavors, if those would come through.
I bet you could. I think this is where the coming to the flavor ideas, what you can do with kombucha, because a lot of times when I see kombucha, I see what the GT is, where it's just like it's super super tart all the time. That's what I get with kombucha. I would like to see more like the hum was, where like you get a little more flavor profiles to it as well, and I think you can do that with a lot of different tea profiles. Yeah. And not even adding extra ingredients, just like a tea profile, with it.
Maybe someday I'm just gonna need to make some like different. We're just gonna need to do like a follow up on this episode. Yes, of like a bunch of original like unadulterated kombuchas made from different teas and just see how they stack up.
Well, I'd say it's similar to what we did with the meat, where like I did the meat episode.
Yeah, exactly like that. The rainbow of Buki. Rainbow of Buki. So I will say this is an odd thing, but like, so this hum bottle is kind of squat. There's another brand that's even more squat than it. for whatever reason, so like Kavita is in the same aspect ratio as the GTs. It's like the taller, skinnier bottle. Those tend to be the more tart ones. The brands that have the little squat ones tend to be milder. So for whatever reason, if you're at the store and you're looking for some kombucha, you being literally you, Ryan, not the viewer necessarily.
The viewer could too.
You might just try one of the short ugly bottles and see what comes out of that, because you might like it.
Comes in that squat little bottle,
That's
and
true.
Coors is amazing. So
Coors Banquet is really good.
I have some in the outside.
Next episode.
But
yeah, and I would say particularly this Hum brand I really like, and I believe Hum is the one that makes. They've like rebranded their designs.
I must say, the design looks really cool. I like it.
Their coconut lime is really good.
I can see that being
Yeah,
like almost a pina colada-ish, almost.
kind of, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like they, basically something like that. Okay, well, so there's that. That's a wrap. I would love to at some point get you interested enough that you start making this, because I would love to see what your sort of
Maybe I
flavor
do.
mixing
Maybe I do
brain-
the rainbow bucci.
Maybe my SCOBY will get so big I'll need to just mix it, I'll to split it. I don't know if that's the thing that you do because I'm a rook, but if it is, maybe I'll just give you
Sure.
one.
Yes.
I'll just
Yes,
give
it
you
is.
a bag with a disgusting puck of bacteria in it and go, hey, make something
It's your turn.
right. All
Your
right.
journey
Young
begins.
grasshopper, your journey begins today.
Well, I have very little to say on this, but if someone wanted to ask you about kombucha and making kombucha in general, Mike, where can they find you?
They would be better served asking somebody else. But with that said, if you would like to chip in on this episode with questions or suggestions,
Yes, suggestions.
I'm open to suggestions. You can find us at Brewthers-In-Law on Twitter or at brewthers-inlaw.com on our website, where you can find more information on our episodes and our podcast at large. And Ryan, where else on the interwebs can people find you?
About kombucha, nowhere. But but if you want to discuss anything brewing wise, I am at Rambo Kuhn on Twitter. It's RAMBOKUHN. Or you can go to Wise Old Owls Brew, which is more beer related. You can also find me on TikTok at Wise Old Owls Brew as well.
Excuse me.
And if you are interested in outside the realm of everything else, we are also Brewthers-In-Law on Instagram, Brewthers-In-Law on Facebook. You can find us in most places now, I think. We're everywhere.
Well, good on me for knowing that.
It's fairly new. Well, Facebook's always been there, but like we don't see it that often because neither one of us are really on Facebook now.
No.
But if you do have any comments on this or any other way you want to listen to this podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Google Podcasts. Wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure you rate us, give us your opinion, tell us how great we are. Hopefully not as bad as we are. But give us a rating on
If
Apple.
you have
on
a
any of
4-star or
those.
above, give us a rating. Otherwise,
Yes. Otherwise,
go away.
shush. And of course, you want to talk about things that you brew as well. What's your favorite thing to brew outside coffee, tea?
If
kombucha?
you homebrew kombucha and you would like to share some recipes or best practices, I'd love to hear it.
Yes.
Because I'm looking for guidance. I followed the instructions here, and I'm looking to branch out. So please,
I was gonna say the
please
one
send-
person I know that does it a lot. He's on TikTok. His name is Homebrew City. He does a lot of mead. He does beer. He does kombucha. He does like a lot of brewing stuff. So he's actually the one who I learned about SCOBY. I didn't know anything about SCOBY at all.
kindred spirit
Yes.
to our podcast.
So, but until next time, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.